Why would you want to be more cautious around a person who's struggling with drugs?
Mental state might not be the best, depending on why they've reached that point. Maybe fear of how people act when they're intoxicated.
Tell me a little bit about that. What has been your own observation of how people might act when they're intoxicated, either on alcohol or drugs?
Just the level of anger people can get to under intoxication.
Do you believe that people who are intoxicated may tend to act more violently or aggressively when they're under the influence?
Yes, they can.
And when we say intoxication, oftentimes we're referring to alcohol, but I'm including drug intoxication as well. Do you think that someone who's taken drugs, illegal drugs, may act more violently or aggressively than someone else who has not?
I do.
Okay. Do you believe that's always the case, or that perhaps
No.
it depends on the drug or it depends on the person?
I think it depends on the drug, the person, what situation they're in.
Now, someone may hold the opinion that if a person is harmed and they've been using illegal drugs, they kind of get what's coming to them. And I'm wondering what you think about that statement, or what your views are on that.
I don't think that's true.
And why is that?
I don't. If someone uses drugs, I don't think that there should be ramifications of violence for that.
Okay. You indicated that you have a respect for law enforcement. I'm assuming that you also would agree that it's important to cooperate with law enforcement if they approach you.
Correct.
Is that something you would do, I'm assuming?
Would do and have.
Okay. Tell me about that. You say you have.
Oh, just getting pulled over and just making the proper steps, getting your license and insurance out and cooperating with the police.
And this has happened to you, and you did that. You cooperated.
Correct.
People may hold the opinion that if one does not immediately cooperate with the police, does not comply with their requests or their orders, and they're subsequently harmed, they might get what's coming to them as well. What do you think of that?
I don't believe that.
Why is that?
Well, I don't think that. I don't think someone has something coming to them. I mean, there's obviously rules and regulations for, acting outside of the law. And there's also rules and regulations for how you treat those people.
How you, as in how law enforcement treats those people?
Correct.
Okay. Well, you recognize then that some people may not immediately comply with law enforcement, and that would not be an excuse for law enforcement to use excessive force?
I do. I believe that.
Without identifying your employer or providing any identifying information, I'm just interested in hearing about what you specifically do in your job. What does it mean to be a client advocate?
I work on accounts of our insureds, so I'm kind of the day-to-day go-between. And I guess
so you communicate client concerns to your company? Okay. Have you been working at the office since the pandemic, or from home?
Strictly at home.
Strictly at home. How's that been working out?
I love it.
Okay. Maybe you're not going to go back?
We have to go back. We have to have an office presence.
Okay. Do you have any concerns coming here? If you're called as a juror, if you're seated as a juror, you have to come downtown, be around some people in relatively close contact, although we're distancing here. Does that raise any concerns for you?
No.
Do you think maybe we're taking too many precautions and this is a little overblown? Or?
No, I don't. The main person I was keeping safe has been vaccinated, so I'm a little less freaked out about it, I guess I would say.
Okay, fair enough. One moment, Your Honor. Just to follow up, you indicated on the survey regarding your opinion of Blue Lives Matter, and this is where you said you'd be terrified if police departments were dismantled. But you went on to say, however, there is obvious change that needs to happen. Can you share with us what is the obvious change that you believe needs to happen?
I guess I would say it does look like, for I guess what's portrayed on the media is other races aren't necessarily treated fairly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answers today. And Your Honor, the state passes for cause.
All right. Juror 92, you will serve on our jury. And so we're going to have you come back on March 29th at 9 a.m. The jury office will be in contact with you if there's any change, but they'll probably be in contact just to remind you and maybe give you other facilities or other logistics information. But for now, you can go with the deputy. They'll take some paperwork from you. You have the letter that got you in here. Make sure you keep that safe and
Okay.
Bring it back next time. So
Okay.
we'll see you on March 29th.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Juror number 95. I think you can let number 96 go. Counsel, we already did let 96 go, is that right? Okay, so this is the last one we have available. All right, come on up, sir. You have a seat right there.
Thank you.
And you are juror number 95, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Couple things before I turn you over to the lawyers for questioning. First thing is I'm going to swear you in because all of your answers have to be under oath. So raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully answer all questions about your qualifications to serve as a juror?
I do.
All right, thank you. We have plexiglass in front of you, between us. The lawyers are quite a distance away and they have plexiglass as well. My point being, if you would like, you can remove your mask for this, or you can keep it on. It's totally your choice.
Thank you.
Whatever makes you comfortable, you do that.
Thank you.
And whether you mask on or off, if you could pull just a little closer to the microphone, we've got to make sure that we can hear you nice and loud.
Yeah, is this good?
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
You filled out a questionnaire, and thank you for doing that. It gave us a lot of good information to start with. So, is there anything about that questionnaire that you need to change or add to?
No.
Okay, and everything was true on the questionnaire?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, sometimes during the questioning, since it was several months ago, people realize that there's some stuff missing or stuff that was inaccurate and you need to amend. Or maybe there's an opinion you expressed that has evolved and it's different now. In all those cases, feel free. I want you to feel comfortable saying something in court here that is different from your questionnaire. Okay?
Sure.
Any problem doing that?
No.
Okay. The questionnaire also advised you not to read any articles, watch any media about this case. But between when you filled out the questionnaire and today, is there anything you've heard or been exposed to about this case, related cases, pretrial matters, just about anything that might be important for us to know? And we know it's all inadvertent because you can't escape a headline sometimes.
Well, that's right. So I do listen to radio in my car, the NPR, and well, my household watches news all the time. So that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you hear new information about this case or related cases?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you recall hearing? And again, we know this is inadvertent, that you can't escape it sometimes.
Right. So just about the settlement.
Okay. What do you recall about the settlement?
Just that it was settlement amount was around the $27 million, which
Okay.
was, and that's about it.
And what was your reaction to that?
Well, to be honest, it was like when I heard, I was shocked,
Okay.
and I didn't expect the settlement to come sooner than the case. So,
Then the criminal case.
right,
Okay. You recognize that that civil case involves different parties, different issues, different laws.
yes,
It's not a part of this case. You recognize that?
yes.
So did it affect you in any way as far as being a juror on this case, or would it affect you in any way?
Well, certainly I looked at it differently before the settlement, and for sure right now I look at it a little bit differently.
Okay. For example, in question 10, which basically asks, no matter what you've heard, could you be fair and impartial? And you answered yes. Do you think the needle's moved on that a little bit, and that maybe you can't be as impartial as before when you heard about the settlement?
Not really.
Okay. Tell me about that. Your thought process on that.
So, of course, you know, when anything is settled, then you look at that maybe the person was guilty, or, you know, and your thought process runs differently than before the trial. You know, most of the cases I have heard in the past is the settlement comes after the fact, you know,
Okay.
and that's fair enough. Like, you know, maybe it was damage or loss of something, and you settle in some way or another. But whenever there's a case, especially, you know, if it's a criminal case and it is settled, or settlement comes way before the case, then you might think that, well, did it get settled because of, the person is guilty. So that's about it.
Okay. And do you think that thought might linger in your mind so that it'd be hard to get back to impartial? Even if you were to try your hardest, it's obviously not a intelligence or personality issue. It's just some people, when they hear certain things, it's like, I can't get that out of my mind. Some can say, nope, I can put it aside. But some people say I can't, and it's kind of moved me off of the impartial dime, so to speak.
Yes, I mean, it is hard to get out of the mind, but once you hear more and you find that you can change your opinion, stuff. So.
Okay. Let me see if I can understand what you just said. You think that you're impartial. This may have moved you one way, but that what you hear in court might move you again? Or
Yes.
Is that accurate, what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. Do you think that when you filled out the questionnaire, I think you said you could presume the defendant innocent.
Can you come up there, Craig?
And let me see if I can go right to the answer. You'd think I would know this questionnaire by now. Basically talks about the presumption of innocence and asks if you can presume the defendant innocent. In fact, it says under our system of justice, defendants are presumed innocent of the criminal charge against them. Would you have any difficulty following the principle of law? And you said no, if correct justice, law, and principles were followed.
Correct.
Can you explain a little bit more on that?
So I still believe, that I believe in the justice system and the law, and just like, for example, in the example of the settlement, right? That is not my last decision or like what's last in my mind. Of course, whenever I hear the whole thing and weigh the law and the legal system, I would vote differently.
Okay.
So I will definitely hear what the law has to say, hear both sides, and then make up my mind.
Based on just what you've heard and know so far, where are you sitting? Can you say, yep, I can presume him innocent, or, I don't know, that settlement talk made it harder to do that?
I would say right in the middle.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that. When you say right about in the middle, kind of.
So, the settlement, it's like it presumes that, the person might be guilty, and because it's settled. But again, if you hear in the court stuff, witnesses and other, testimonies, then you will consider it and say, okay, maybe it's not guilty, or so. That's why I say I'm in the middle.
Sure. Let me ask you this question. You filled out the questionnaire, you mailed it in. You may have had some opinions about the case, which you have to put aside. But you said you have no problem with the presumption of innocence if court justice, law, and principles are followed. So, are you in that same frame of mind today after hearing about that settlement? And I'm not
Yes.
going to make you quantify
Yes.
one way or the other. Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that would affect kind of that where there's smoke, there's fire? You've heard that. Do you think that's applicable here? Do you think that might be a situation?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Nelson to inquire. There might be some other questions he has about this. I'm probably not being very articulate about this, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson, you may inquire.
May just be a long day, right? So, sir, good afternoon. Thank you for your patience today. I'm going to just kind of start where the judge left off a little bit,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Under our system of law, Mr. Chauvin right now is presumed innocent. That means the starting point is he's presumed innocent. What I hear you saying is that settlement, right, has put you in a frame of mind that leads you to believe that maybe if the city of Minneapolis, for example, believes something was wrong, that there's something to that. Is that a
Yes.
fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. But you understand here in the criminal case, we should not have to get over that burden. We shouldn't have to disprove anything. And you need to start from zero. Can you start from zero?
Yes.
Okay. So you can put that settlement out of your mind, just move it completely out of your mind and start at square one or zero and presume Mr. Chauvin innocent.
Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
And you understand that what the city of Minneapolis may or may not do in terms of a civil settlement has no bearing on this case.
Yes.
We don't even know if the politicians have seen any of the evidence in this case, right? They made a decision for other reasons. Can you accept that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am going to just ask you some pretty general questions first and foremost, and then I'm going to ask you about some of your responses to the questionnaire.
Yes.
Would that be all right with you?
Sure.
Okay. And I'll try to make this as quick as I can here. All right. If you and I were to meet under certain different circumstances at a party, what are a couple things I would learn about you?
I'm a people's person, so and I really don't like to judge anybody, and I'm really a person of I got to know you first before I can make any assumptions about you. So that's the kind of person I am. I usually get along with everyone and just be a pretty socialized person, I would say. So yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, because you indicated that you like to watch cricket.
Yes.
Could you explain to me the rules of cricket?
No.
Oh, sorry.
That would take a long time.
Yeah. But generally, that's what you like. You enjoy to watching cricket.
Yes, it's pretty close to baseball.
Okay.
So.
And I get that. I was kind of more making a joke because I don't really know. So, when you knew something about this case, right? Before you learned you were a potential juror in this case?
Yes.
Right? When you learned that you were a potential juror in this case, how did you react to that?
Pretty neutral. I was like, I've never been through a jury duty, so whether it would be this case or any other, I was just surprised. It's an opportunity for me to do something for the country. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Were you concerned about your personal or physical safety?
Not really, if it's very confidential, and the only people who knows about it is my immediate family. So,
okay. At some point, when the judge determines it to be safe, your identity may be revealed to the public. Are you okay with that?
when you said that, tell me more of that.
Well, we don't know when
Okay.
that will happen. We're doing everything we can to maintain your anonymity during trial. And at some point, though, in the future, we have no idea when, but when the judge determines it to be safe, your name will be released publicly.
Okay.
Does that concern you?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
For the safety of myself and my family.
All right. Would you be concerned that one particular verdict or another may bring you more harm?
No.
Okay. So you would think that any verdict could potentially bring you or your family harm?
Yes.
Okay. Would that concern, would it be so pervasive and so just kind of ongoing if you were a juror on this case that it would prevent you from focusing on the evidence in this case?
knowing the being public of myself later, yes.
Okay. So you would be not able to focus on the evidence in this case, you'd be because of your concerns for your safety.
Correct.
Any further questions?
No.
All right, sir, I think given your exposure to the settlement, which might have some impact on you, I think you would try your best not to have it, but I still think that it might have weigh on your mind, but more importantly, the safety of your family. If it weighs on your mind to the point where you can't really focus on the evidence, and that's perfectly fine. I'm glad you were honest about that. And so I'm going to excuse you from this jury. And in fact, you're excused from jury service, so we won't need to call you up on another case. Unless, of course, you get a summons a few years from now.
Sure.
All right? You can go with the deputy. They'll collect some paperwork from you, and then have a good day.
Sure, thank you.
You bet.
Do I leave this with...
You can actually give that to the deputy, and we'll dispose of that. Thank you. Say that was an excusal for cause on, I assume, a defense motion. Am I correct on that defense motion? That's kind of the way we have been operating as a code, so that we aren't openly challenging the juror in front of them. That concludes the number of jurors we have today. 8:15 tomorrow for decisions on the motions. We'll start with jurors at 9. I think, I'm not sure, have the parties filed their briefs, because it was closed business today that I expected any briefs, so that I have something to read tonight.
I think they're all filed at this point, Your Honor.
Okay. As long as they're filed, I can find them.
Not sure about the status of ours, but.
Okay.
And I would like to make a record to address a point that was raised by defense counsel earlier.
Sure. You may.
And it's a record, and it's really a request, and that is that we proceed just kind of collectively with some caution before making assertions regarding things that are happening outside of the courtroom. I think that sometimes we're very quick to react to information that may or may not be accurate. And I think, Your Honor, that is something that happened today. I did request just a little bit further information regarding what counsel indicated was a press conference held by the city of Minneapolis in which they discussed the settlement. And I don't believe that, as portrayed, that was accurate. And what I have, and if the court's permission, I could provide to the court as a court exhibit a transcript from the Minneapolis mayor's weekly press briefing that I believe counsel was referencing. And I think that it will put into exact context what was said. First of all, this was not a press release or a press briefing that was called to discuss the George Floyd case, or a briefing about, or a press conference about the settlement. It was the weekly press briefing that the city of Minneapolis always has. And there were, in response to some questions by reporters, references made to the settlement, and specifically in which the mayor basically says we're not going to be discussing anything about the ongoing criminal proceedings. And so
that wasn't the problem. It was that they were talking about the civil settlement.
That's right. And the civil settlement, Your Honor, and if I may I provide the court with the transcript of the actual briefing?
Is it a transcript of what was said?
It is, Your Honor. I believe this was prepared by our office, so it's not an official transcript in any way, but it could aid you in listening to the information that's contained in the URL that's listed at the top.
Any objection to that, Mr. Nelson?
I have not received a copy, so if the state has a copy for me to as well.
Certainly.
Because I assume you made that record earlier, Mr. Nelson, as in support of your motion to continue or change venue.
Right.
In that, specifically, Minneapolis city officials continue to talk about the case.
Correct. And it was, I mean, in the context of how it's being reported, is that the Minneapolis city attorney It specifically said that the timing of the George Floyd lawsuit settlement reflected a need to act fast.
All right, I'll accept the transcript as an aid to the actual press conference, which apparently I'll add to my nightly homework list. And we'll consider that exhibit to be part of the court exhibits for the defense motion to continue the trial or change venue. So we'll receive it as such.
Okay.
You can just give it to Mr. Schaefer. He'll mark it as court exhibit 1.
And then I would also ask, Your Honor, again, just emphasizing the importance of maintaining an accurate record. To the extent that the court is going to be relying on anything, I mean, off-the-cuff comments about something that someone may have reported in the media, that's really third-hand information. I think that if counsel is going to be making factual assertions, they need to be made as either a formal offer of proof or a declaration with supporting exhibits attached. And I don't think that the court has limited in any way defense counsel's ability to file articles, newspaper articles, or whatever kind of accounts he thinks is going to support his motion. But just simply in the middle of proceedings saying, hey, I heard that the city council is talking about this case again, without the context in which it's being spoken about, is just unfair.
Let's just stop right there. As an officer of the court, Mr. Nelson was noting something that was in progress almost. He has the right to do that. You have a right to criticize it as not being sufficiently supported by declarations and affidavits. My response to his declaration was to say it was noted, nothing more, no findings. And I would expect that he follows it up with perhaps some filings. I cannot expect Mr. Nelson to step out of these proceedings where we've been in session since 8:30 this morning to file affidavits to add to his record on a motion I'm going to be reading about and deciding tonight for tomorrow morning. I don't think it's fair to criticize either side. Either side. You should not be criticizing each other for noting for the record things that are happening in an emergent manner. It should be followed up. I agree with it. Good record is much better. But for an officer of the court to make a notation, he's entitled to do that. Whether he wants to just rest on that is fine. I think your answer to give me that transcript and a URL to listen to is also very appropriate, very important for me to look at these questions. But let's recognize the fact that the state has a lot of lawyers on this case who can sit outside this courtroom and start grinding out things. Mr. Nelson does not have the same level of support. How many lawyers now are admitted pro hoc vice and are working for the state on this case so far, Mr. Slisher? Is it 10, 12?
I don't have that number, Your Honor, but I do know that the Police Federation, the union, is funding the defendant's defense, and they have...
Let's not talk about that. We're not talking about how things are funded. I'm just saying, I can understand why what I'm saying is, I can understand why the state is able to produce affidavits and memos so quickly, because there are a lot of lawyers working outside this courtroom. I can't expect that Mr. Nelson would walk in this afternoon with affidavits when we've been in jury selection all day.
And
I think what we're getting into is criticizing each other's performance. Let's not do that. You do your own performance, you let the court evaluate whether it's enough. We're going to go forward, make your record, make it as good as you want to make it. I'll decide based on the record that's before me, and if it's not good enough, I'll say so. And to be honest, I'm not going to talk about this second press conference. I'm not going to talk about it. Make your submissions. I prefer now they be in writing, and we stop talking about it. I've asked Minneapolis to stop talking about it. They keep talking about it. We keep talking about it. Everybody just stop talking about it. Let me decide what the ramifications are. Are we clear on this? We're adjourned for the day. Submit your additional submissions in writing, not oral. Thank you.